There's something your dog does every single day that you've probably never noticed. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. It's something so quiet, so ordinary, that it almost doesn't look like anything at all. But it might be the truest mirror you've ever looked into. I want you to think about a moment. You walk into a room full of people, and before you've said a single word, something changes inside you. Your posture shifts, your voice adjusts. Even the way you laugh becomes something slightly different from how you laugh when you're alone. You probably don't notice it anymore. You've been doing it so long it doesn't feel like a performance. It just feels like you. But here's the question no one asks. Which version of you is actually real? Watch your dog the next time guests arrive. He doesn't adjust. He doesn't think about how he's coming across. He doesn't soften himself for one person and sharpen himself for another. He enters the room exactly the same way he enters every room. Maybe a little curious, maybe calm, maybe wildly excited because he heard a crinkle of plastic from 3 rooms away. But whatever he is, he's fully that, without editing, without measuring the room first. Guests who love dogs get the same dog as the guests who don't. He doesn't perform warmth to earn their approval, and he doesn't shrink himself to avoid their discomfort. He's just himself, completely, every single time. And no one in that room has any power over who he is, not even you. Now, think about the last time you said yes when every quiet part of you was saying no. Think about the last time you swallowed an opinion because you were afraid of how it would land. Think about the last time you worked harder, smiled longer, stayed later, gave more than you had, not because you wanted to, but because you were terrified of what would happen to someone's face if you didn't. That fear has a name. It's not kindness. It's not generosity. It's the constant, exhausting belief that your worth must be re-earned every single day, and that the moment you stop performing, the people will leave. So you keep going. You shape yourself around whoever is in the room. You become a slightly different person for your boss, your parents, your friends, your partner. Not because you're dishonest, but because somewhere, a long time ago, you learned that love was conditional. That approval could be withdrawn, and that the safest thing was to make yourself into whatever kept it from leaving. Here's what's happening inside your dog that isn't happening inside you. Dogs have what researchers call a stable self-concept. Their sense of identity isn't constructed from the outside in. It doesn't depend on how others respond to them. In human psychology, we call the opposite of this external validation dependency, a state where your sense of self-worth is constantly borrowed from other people's reactions. When someone approves, you feel real. When someone withdraws, you dissolve. Dogs don't have this architecture. Neurologically, a dog's emotional regulation is rooted in the limbic system. But it isn't endlessly looping through a social comparison network the way the human prefrontal cortex does. He isn't running a background process that asks, "How am I being perceived right now?" He has no such process. And so he has no performance. He isn't cold or detached. He loves deeply. He bonds completely. He feels everything. But his core, who he is, isn't up for negotiation. Not for a stranger, not for a child who pulls his ears, not for someone who ignores him, not even for the person he loves most in the world. He remains himself, secure, unedited, whole. The Stoics called this the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius wrote about it as the part of you that no external force can reach unless you hand it over willingly. Your dog never hands it over. He doesn't even know there's a door. Remember what I asked at the beginning. Which version of you is actually real? Here's what I believe. The version that exists when no one is watching, when there's no performance required, when the room is empty, when there's nothing to earn and no one to impress. That version is the most honest thing about you. And most people pleasers haven't met that version in years. Not because they forgot who they are, but because they've been so busy maintaining everyone else's comfort that their own self became a stranger. Your dog has never had this problem. Not once. And here's the practical truth in that. The next time you feel yourself adjusting, shifting your tone, softening your truth, performing a version of yourself designed to keep someone's approval in the room, pause, ask one question. Would my dog do this? Not because a dog's life is the goal, but because that question cuts through everything that isn't real. Your dog doesn't ask whether you'll love him more if he becomes something different. He simply exists and lets the love find him or not. That kind of security isn't arrogance. It isn't selfishness. It is the quiet understanding that who you are doesn't need to be defended, modified, or apologized for in order to deserve belonging. You were not born performing. You learned it. Somewhere, someone taught you that the real you wasn't quite enough, and you believed them. You've been paying that debt ever since. But here's the thing about debts built on lies. They never get paid off, because the approval you're earning is approval for someone who doesn't exist. And the love you're keeping in the room is love for a performance, not for you. Tonight, when your dog settles beside you, watch him for a moment. He isn't wondering if you still love him. He isn't replaying the day, searching for something he should have done differently to make you stay. He's just here, warm, present, completely at peace with what he is. He never learned to be afraid of himself, and so he never had to perform his way back into his own life. You can learn this, not overnight, not all at once, but slowly. You can begin to return to the version of yourself that exists before the room fills up, the one who doesn't adjust, the one who doesn't shrink, the one who was always enough before anyone told you otherwise. Your dog already knows you're that person. He's never seen anyone else.